Okay, this is my testimony. This is my story. I don't like to use the word testimony because it's loaded with Christianity troubles. This is my family story. It's very simple. There's a word in Revelation that says they were rescued, they were saved, they were made peaceful and whole by the blood of the Lamb and by family storytelling. The word of their testimony is a nice fancy statement, but what does that mean? It means people telling their stories. Let's talk about the story of Judah and Tamar. Let's talk about the story of David and Bathsheba. These are the family stories, and they must be told. The children need to know the personal disaster stories. So here's what's up. I was surrounded by Christianity, and there were two evils going on. Number one, I had been adopted in the womb. A man married a woman pregnant with a child in a beautiful way and started a beautiful family, and the church and the people all around me were afraid of talking about that wonderful thing because you avoid the issue of sexual immoralities, when in fact, it's a wise thing and a fun thing and an excellent thing to talk about those things so that your children can communicate and keep themselves free after they've had a disaster. Here's what happens. You get into an intimate disaster and you hide it. And then the habit owns you. But if you renounce it and connect with your friends and family in a state of good cheer, you stay free and you select a better way to have your peace and your pleasure. So, I was surrounded by a Christianity that for 25 years did not help my poor little mommy and daddy talk with me about the joy of making a family around a pregnant mommy. That's number one. 25 years. My parents were the greatest parents in the neighborhood. Everybody loved them. When they told me, I was so sad for them. You must have been going through hell trying to figure out when to tell me. Why didn't you tell me when I was 5 or 6? And I love them. But the Christianity around them did not have conscience-cleansing joy times. So people were walking around with unconfessed sin, nasty issues, and basically putting on a facade. All right, that's just one thing. The other thing is my mother was told to study every place in the Bible where it says Holy Spirit. She studied all the way through the Bible. She played the organ in the Lutheran Church. She went to Baptist Bible studies. She told God, I want this Holy Spirit. She started talking in tongues. She didn't even know what tongues was. No one had taught her anything about the baptism of the Holy Spirit. Nothing. She knew nothing, and Father poured out the Holy Spirit on her. That was in 1961. I was 4 years old. I was not told about this wonderful, sweet, wonderful, supernatural, crazy, amazing surprise for 37 years. This is why I warn you. If you are not having regular, cheerful, fun, happy, conscience-cleansing honesty times with communion and the Holy Spirit in your homes, you are not yet the Church of Jesus Christ. And your children will begin to be more and more bound into a facade. You are not the highfalutin Brahmin caste because you've come into Christ. You are not the highfalutin Brahmins, and you are not the imperial British Empire rulers now that you've come into Jesus. You have become the most humble ones, and you imitate Paul by admitting your faults, admitting your demons, and having your children know their daddy's demons. Oh, my daddy had a problem with this thing, and my daddy has a problem with that thing. A woman is delivered by getting under the life of a man who watches his words. It is written, Matthew 12, on Judgment Day, a man will have to give an account for every careless word he has spoken. So a woman, in Isaiah 4, verse 1 and 2, a woman should select a man who is careful with his words and connected with heaven in order to receive a protective deliverance for her mind, because she is much more easily tricked by demons. The woman has to assign herself to someone. And in John 6, verse 29, Jesus says, assign yourself, pisteuo, connect with the one that God has sent to you. That's what those words mean. Pisteuo apostolo deos. You're supposed to assign yourself to an apostle who is planting home communion groups. Read Acts 14, verse 21 and 22. Acts 14, verse 21 and 22. That is what church looks like. Men who are gathering together clusters of people and revealing one elder in a group of families to tenderly shepherd and care for individual souls. Not a business person, not a hotshot teacher, not somebody that's hired from somewhere else or came from somewhere else. A person in the neighborhood family who has the most tender heart. These are my things. I challenge you to read Leviticus 15 and understand that Jesus and the men in his family were responsible to care about the blood of the family. The flow of the man and the flow of the woman is a public thing for the family that is separated from the world. If you can't be real about those two things, how can you operate with the power of the Holy Spirit? That's a good question. Tra-la, yippee, think.